All right, it's 2 o'clock in the morning. I don't normally do videos like this, but I just cannot get. I woke up at 2 a.m. down here in Australia. I'm on the other side of the world from all of this, where this is going on. And I just can't get this thought out of my head. And I think I'm wrong, right? I think I'm wrong. But if I'm not wrong, like if I'm right, then the fact that even I think I'm totally wrong is part of the brilliance. So I'm talking about the Rajah Jackson thing. Now I'm going to get names wrong because I am a mark in this. And even the fact that we know this term mark. So I'm talking about the world of professional wrestling. Let's go back to my childhood where I believed that wrestling was real. Then I was sort of still a youngish child where I thought, okay, this was my thinking about professional wrestling back in the mid early 80s, that they go along with it or something, but whoever gets the move in first, they don't know who's going to win. So when Hulk Hogan won, he won because he got the move in first. But I didn't quite yet at that time believe that it was just all a storyline. And I'd fight, with and this is probably when I'm 8, maybe 9, 10, and I'd sneak downstairs to watch Superstars of Wrestling at midnight when my parents wouldn't let me stay up till 10, 11, 12 at night or whatever to watch when Superstars was on. And so, but one time on a broadcast, I saw a drop kick and I saw the feet clearly go past the head and miss, and the fellow sold it, took a bump and all of that. And then I thought, okay, the illusion was sort of gone. I thought, it is fake. And then we used the F word. We're only 30, 40 years removed from when most people believed wrestling was real. I know that you go back 60, 70 years. My mum was telling me about how my grandma used to yell at Spiro Agnew and all of the Mario Milano or whoever it was that she would watch the wrestling and believed every word of it. So we're only 2 generations away from almost universal acceptance that wrestling was real. 2 generations later, no one thinks it's real. And look at the state of the wrestling industry at the moment. It's been bought out by a big giant MMA company. And all these things are kind of factoring in here. I just want you to go with me a little bit, hypothesize here. Because if I'm right, this is one of the biggest and most significant events in professional wrestling since WrestleMania I. Like, because we can all imagine that when Vince McMahon took over the WWF from his father and took it national, took it from little small, because back in those days, at least, these are the stories, because I don't know anything. I'm not an insider. I am a mark. I mean, as I look at my camera there, I look at I didn't put that there for this video. Like, I'm a tragic mark. Like, I'm a fan. Just simply a watcher of this product since I was a kid. Not recently. I stopped watching at WrestleMania 30 when The Undertaker lost his streak. That was sort of the last one that I watched. I think it was 30 where Hogan comes out and lets us have our mark out moment when Real American hits. And then Stone Cold comes out and then they do a little promo and Hogan even says the Silver Dome, whatever it was where he did Andre, and he mistakenly calls it, and they sort of, they tease him and play along with it. And then The Rock comes out, and it was just, the Mount Rushmore of wrestling when those three. Well, that was it. I stopped kind of watching. And then I heard that when it was sold to the big mob from, what's the mob? The UFC guys, that parent company, and Triple H took over as CEO and all of those things. Word on the street there for a couple of years was that the product got really, really good again. Like really good. And I started binging, watching all the pay-per-views, trying to catch up. And at the moment I'm up to WrestleMania 32 or 3, thereabouts, trying to catch up because I want to see this product as it got good again. I'm telling you, I'm whizzing through a lot of these pay-per-views, not getting into it. And maybe that's just because I'm old. I don't know. But anyway, I was optimistic about the product being good again. So I wanted to catch up, and so be it. But then I see all this Rajah Jackson stuff. And I'm thinking, okay, so I'm going along with it, by the way. I'm marking out like you guys are. I am thinking I've got my opinion about Rajah Jackson, and I've got my opinion about all of the varying characters around this. But I think you might see where I'm going, that what if, I'm hypothesizing, what if it is all the greatest work since, well, in my adult lifetime? Imagine that it was all a work. Now, like I say, I don't think it is, because I don't think anyone's this good. But nor did anyone think Vince McMahon could have done what he did back in WrestleMania when he turned it from all indies. Like, think about those territory days. They're basically all indies. Now we've got the indies and we've got the big show. We've got WWF or whatever. And for a while there, we had WCW that competed for a while. Vince bought it out, so we're back to one now. And then we've had the TNAs and the AEWs and etc. Think about the part of the product. What if, imagine, and like I say, I don't think they are, because if they are, they deserve as much credit for this angle as Vince McMahon does for revolutionizing and changing the wrestling business forever, turning local little guys into universally known, ubiquitous, global, household name superstars. So let's break it down. We've got a product that is waning in its popularity. We've got, I saw recently Stephanie McMahon was on there, basically endorsing VPNs to steal programming of her own product from the various places that have commercials by advertising a VPN on her podcast. We've got chaos in the industry. We've got Vince McMahon in trouble over this. We've got documentaries, Hell, West and Crooked, some endorsed and authorized, some not, showing us behind the scenes. We see the training events where people learn how to take bumps. Like, there is no the mask has been peeled off. There's no magic anymore, because we know, all of us as fans know now, and they're telling us now overtly. They're even showing us how the magic is done. And I think really we jumped the shark when superplexes became a thing, because there is no way to do a superplex off the top rope without the full and utter cooperation of both parties. And it looked it, and it was obvious, and that was the moment that I think we jumped the shark in the business. And now it's all, and you hear some really smart people and some old school folks, let's say, maybe I just think they're smart because they're old school like me, but you hear a Jim Cornette or whatever, and some of those sorts of characters saying that they don't like the flippy dippy shit, and stuff. And I kind of agree. Take me back to when I believed that, Hogan, just by doing a bit of this, was going to point and beat whoever he was in front of. And, look, my favorite match of all time is Hogan Rock. No, it's my second favorite match of all time. But oh boy, did I mark out at that one. Oh, my God, I loved Hogan Rock. And you know what I loved most about it? The realness. And it wasn't even Hogan's performance or Rock's, even though they were the reason for the reason I loved it, was the crowd. It was an entire crowd full of me, where they were trying to shove heel Hogan down our throats, and we just wanted him to win. We just wanted that. It was wonderful. So for an industry that's in turmoil, the curtain's been peeled back. Imagine if this was a work, the Rajah Jackson thing. We've all seen it. So if you haven't, go and watch whatever you need to watch to come up to speed. Because I was watching MMA when UFC 1 came out, where a friend of mine gave me a videotape of UFC 1, where Hoist Gracie, Ken Shamrock, Dan Severn, and those characters, Tank Abbott, that UFC 1 through 7 or 8, where these things were raw, where we had a boxer versus a jiu-jitsu guy versus a submission guy in Shamrock. We had someone kick some sumo guy in the head and his tooth flies out across the ring. No rules. The only rules were no headbutting, no fish hooking, and no groin shots. I think that was it. Otherwise, no rules, no time limit, nothing. And these guys fought tournament style, so they'd fight, then they'd fight again, insanity, right? Well, go and have a look at some of those early 1 through 7 UFCs. Incredible. So it was somewhere around those, between modern UFC and those crazy days, that Rampage Jackson, the father of Rajah Jackson, hits the scene. And his move, he got famous, and I've had a vague recollection of it. So I Googled it in preparation to kind of do this. And if we share my screen, this was one of his moves. It was if you have a look, lifts him up. It was a power slam knockout, right? A famous, as I say, iconic slam knockout. And so there's Quentin Jackson, Rampage. UFC Hall of Famer and his son gets into this altercation where there's some backstage shenanigans that there's a camera rolling on. We all see it. The guy uses the term, the Psycho Stu guy, hits him with a can and says, aren't you going to sell it? And we see a stream. We see the young man getting his nose out of joint. We see an apology. We see scripted drama. Well, we see drama. Now, I'm not saying it's scripted. I think this, I've said it a million times. I don't think what I'm saying, what I'm hypothesizing is the case. But boy, oh boy, if it is, this is the greatest moment in history. I'm glad I'm documenting this at 2 a.m. Just so I can get my thoughts down. Because I'm sure there's other people smarter than me that have already hypothesized this, but I don't know. I haven't seen any of them. And I've seen everyone commenting on it, and that's why it's so brilliant, is everyone has marked out on it. There has been comments from the smartest minds in this industry, and they've all marked out for it. Why? Because it's real. Because we're not marks. We're just describing it as, they're all describing it as what really happened. And that's Jim Cornette, the aforementioned. That's Conrad with JBL. Where they had on one of the other characters, the cowboy guy, where other podcasters have been interviewing who's the hero guy. And that's why I think the hero guy, what's his name? Jim Cornette was even saying he's really good. His name's slipping my mind. AJ is getting, the cowboy guy's name's getting in the way of the guy who's the hero, the muscular guy. And he's really muscular and he's really nice. And he's so down to earth. He's the epitome of babyface, right? No one, he's the guy who went in, and when Raja Jackson does the knockout slam, just like his father did 20 years ago, then he goes and rains down punches, and everyone agrees they are not working punches. See, even the fact that we've got all these terms is what means that if this was real, it is absolutely the biggest work of genius in professional wrestling since Vince hypothesized hiring Muhammad Ali, Liberace, Mr. T, Cyndi Lauper, and putting together WrestleMania I. So hats off to you if this is a work, and whoever put this together. Because, and I don't think it is, because, again, what did Jim Cornette called the dehydrated Arthur was one of the bodies in this, who's in the wrestling school, Rikishi's wrestling school, where this all went down, where Raja Jackson gets hit by a beer can backstage, animosity entails, apologies accepted, but then during the match, Raja jumps in the ring. With permission, the guy lets him lift up, so he gives him his body, power knockout slam, just like his dad did. Then he rains down punches. Then the good guy, the really nice guy, muscular, the ultimate babyface, jumps in, tackles Raja Jackson, takes him off him, and is universally seen by the entire wrestling world in interviews and everything as the hero and the good guy. Psycho Stu is out in the hospital and not pressing charges yet. So everyone's saying this is attempted murder. Everyone's saying this is assault. Everyone's saying this is a crime. And yet there has not been an arrest. Remember when, back in the day, when we were all marks, sort of, and the police would come and arrest Stone Cold Steve Austin? There'd be some people that would have thought that, yes, some of those people were trespassing and they were police there to throw his ass in jail or whatever, Can you imagine if this was a work? How brilliant it is to have fooled every smart wrestling commentator on planet Earth. I don't know who could have been this brilliant. Maybe Chael Sonnen. Maybe someone with a brain as sharp as Chael's could have perpetuated this and pulled the pieces and the players together, smartened up Raja Jackson to the point where he could actually throw real punches that look like real punches, not working punches, but he could throw punches that look real. He could do a power slam and Stu could take it that looked like that slam knocked him out. What if it was all a work? Because look at what they could do. Now, even if it wasn't a work, if they want to pay back bloody Psycho Stu, yeah, I think his GoFundMe's pulled last time I looked, and that was days ago. So it's probably up to $500,000 by now, because it was a couple of 100,000 when I last looked, and that was days ago. So you want to get that man a payoff. Well, here's the thing: if it's all the work, boy, oh boy, do they deserve a payoff for the genius of the work. But I don't think it is a work. I think it's a shoot. I think it's real. I think Psycho Stu was actually very, very much hurt. So if that was the case, smarten up Raja Jackson. Smarten him up. Like, have the chat and practice and get that man on board, whatever it takes. And now pick up where my ridiculous work of fiction has left off and turn it into that. Because look at what you've got with these characters. You've got the whole world talking about it, bar none. The whole world. All of them. When I say the whole world, all the world in combat sports. And you've got the company that bought professional wrestling's granddaddy of them all being the leader in combat sports, in the MMA. You've got lines being blurred with people like Brock Lesnar playing with a foot in both worlds. Ronda Rousey, Brock Lesnar, CM Punk. You know, you've got these guys that are, to varying degrees of success, having a foot in both camps. And now you've got the ultimate crossover, again, being portrayed as a shoot, which I believe it is, that imagine if it was a work, it's the ultimate work to put eyeballs on the product. Everyone is talking about it. Every commentator, every wrestler is up on their commentary. And I've seen, and I'm just, you know, again, I couldn't name them all, but Stevie Richards, Rob Van Dam, Mark Henry, Big Sexy Kevin Nash, the Jim Cornettes, Conrad and JBL, every commentator in that industry has had extensive, multiple income-earning podcasts, all with their thoughts on the crime, on the assault, on the attempted murder, on all of those things. And we are now left with no arrest, a clear heel, Raja, a clear co-heel, if you will, the cowboy guy. You've got supporting characters in, I love Jim Cornette calling him, what does he call it? The dehydrated Arthur. And the other guys. You've got the hero guy in, I want to say his name starts with A. This is killing me. I'm embarrassed. But you've got your good guy, the muscular nice guy. You've got the guy who was hurt, you know, who's been in hospital, who's now out of it, who can talk, no charges been. So you got Psycho Stu. Again, I think back to how we felt when Macho Man, in the build-up to WrestleMania 3, dropped with the belt, not the belt, the bell on Ricky Steamboat's throat, and we were thinking Ricky Steamboat was hurt. Like, history could be repeating itself the way we think Psycho Stu's hurt, and now there could be even some build-ups to the giant blow-off. So the giant blow-off match would be Psycho Stu versus Raja, but the build-up match could be the hero guy, the nice guy, the sweet guy, truck driver, I think, runs a school, says R a lot. I remember all these things about him because I watched so many podcasts with this lovely bloody guy. I can't remember his name. God damn it. And I should, because I did until I pushed record and it's 2 a.m. I think it starts with A. I want to say AJ Nero, but he's the drummer from Twisted Sister from memory. And AJ was the cowboy guy. So it starts with M, maybe. A-M. Anyway, so all right, so we've got our characters, we've got our, you know, our tag team match in the lead up to the big one, to the big main event. So we've got Psycho Stu and Hero Muscly Guy versus Cowboy Guy and Raja, all in the lead up to the main event being Psycho Stu versus Raja. But could they, and here's the thing that's going to be tough, they've set it up perfectly in my little work of fiction. And if they were going to take over from here, where they turn this this shoot into a work, they've got to keep it going as if it's a shoot, meaning somehow they've got to set it up where it still looks like AJ's legit, where they've got to still make it look like Cowboy Guy and the way he has portrayed. You know, he's tried to jump on with JBL and with Conrad and kind of cry victim a little bit. And the comment section did not buy it. They supposedly, as Conrad was saying after the stream, the chat didn't buy it. The chat did not warm to him, despite very credible. I think he was probably telling the truth. And the chat and Conrad just thought he was cutting a promo. And so you got two clear heels. You got two clear baby faces. Can they keep working in that style where it fools the world into thinking it's a shoot when it's a work? And could they do a tag match? Because there's no such thing as a tag match in MMA. Where do they fight? Do they fight in the UFC? Because that would maintain the shoot nature of it. Because if it's in the UFC, now, would the UFC risk it? Because if it was found out that it was a work, then that's the end of that multi-billion-dollar brand. But one of the challenges is, if that multi-billion-dollar brand that they bought, the WWE, is waning in its appeal, maybe this is a way they're looking at blurring the lines between the two to put eyeballs on the product, which they have done unwittingly. If it is a shoot, it is unwittingly put eyeballs on both products. Boy, oh boy, could that be? Now, I'm jumping all over my words there because there's so many factors at play. But I reckon I could have sparked your imagination in that you've got an industry in turmoil or in decline, let's just say, where the audiences are no longer kind of, let's just say, believing with their emotions as much as they were back when I was growing up. Even once we became, smartened up a little bit. And even the fact that we know these words like mark, smartened up, working punch, gimmick, all of those industry terms that we think we're so clever as audience members. What if these geniuses just worked all of us, including the smartest minds in the game? What if they did? I would love to see that. I would love it. Probably because the reality of what happened, a poor bugger giving his body to a bloke and nearly getting killed, is pretty horrific. I just love to think that Psycho Stu was in on it, and he's now in the hospital or just got out, like Ricky Steamboat back in 86, 7, 8, whatever that was, where Ricky Steamboat had the bell and Macho Man was, because as a kid, I hated Macho Man. That shows how good he was. Because as an adult, he's one of the greatest of all time, and yet he did his job so well that that we hated him and we love Ricky Steamboat. So I don't know. Put some thought to that. Chael, are you this genius that somehow got Rajah Jackson trained up to pull off his dad's power slam knockout move, and Psycho Stu is that good that he could take the bump in a different way that made it look exactly realistic, like he's seeing stars? You've got everyone saying he's swallowing blood and swallowing teeth and flatlining. You got all these. Oh, man, it makes me salivate with anticipation if we found out. And that's the thing. Here's the beauty of it. If they're this good, we're not going to find out for another 20 or 30 years when we look back that this was a work. Because if they're this good to have pulled this off, they're not going to reveal it yet. They're going to make us watch along, see if it plays out. But as it stands right now, it is the perfect storyline because no one's gone to jail. And that's one of the key bits, is if Rajah committed attempted murder, why has there been no activity along those lines? Now, maybe by the time this video hits that he'll be under arrest and that's it. Who knows? Probably. Because if everyone's right, and they are, that he did something that's unacceptable. But boy, oh boy, kudos to them. If my 2 a.m. can't get it out of my head, only because of the affection that I've got for the good guys and the disdain that I and the world has got for the heels, for the bad guys in this, just makes me feel that certain way that you think, boy, oh boy, just like my grandma yelling at the screen over haystacks Hannigan or, Mario Milano, whoever it might be, Abdullah the Butcher, just like all of that 2 generations ago marked out for those legends, and how I marked out for Hulk Hogan and Macho and, the that vintage. And um, maybe now in this current modern day podcast, everyone talks about it, everyone uses insider terms. Boy, oh boy, would this be one of the greatest works of genius of all time. And the main reason I don't think this is a work, and it can't be, is I don't think any of them are that good to have pulled it off in terms of the talent pulling off what they pulled off in front of a relatively small audience. Because in order to make a work look like a shoot would require a skill set the likes of which no one in the industry I've yet to see. Even the best of the best, like Brock Lesnar, Kurt Angle, they're good, but they still don't. You can still tell when Brock's in the UFC shooting and when he's in the WWE working. So I think the main reason that this is exactly as it's been presented is because no one's that good. But boy, oh boy, what a compliment that is if the dehydrated alpha, and I tell you, I laugh at Jim Cornette for that. If that crew, if Rikishi or whoever it is behind the scenes pulled this off, take a bow, because you've changed the wrestling industry forever once again. See this out till its end, and I hope my little spoiler hasn't spoiled everything. Not that it's a spoiler, because we all know this is real and this is how it went down. But it's an interesting thought exercise to think, boy, oh boy, this is real life heels, baby faces, storyline, drama, just as it was back when we used to watch it. Anyway, there's my 2 a.m. rambling. I'll leave that with you. Comments below.